Representative Diana DeGette, Democrat from Colorado, and Chief Deputy Whip and Representative Robert Lott, Republican from Ohio. Good to have both of you with us. We appreciate it. Representative DeGette, I guess let's start with you. Yesterday, you got the company to say no more dividend for the rest of the year, $20 billion going into a fund to go to people affected by the spill. What more could you possibly try to get today out of Mr. Hayward?
Well, what we need to find out from Mr. Hayward is how they're going to stop this terrible oil disaster, how they're going to stop the millions of barrels of oil that are leaking out into the Gulf every week, and what they're going to do to ensure that we clean up the hundreds of miles of the Gulf. The other thing I'm concerned about is the health effects, both on the cleanup workers and the residents of the Gulf, and to make sure that BP will assure us that they're going to pay for those short and the long-term health effects. But I thought that the $20 billion fund and the no dividends is a good first step.
First step or
Yeah.
Final step, Representative Latta?
Well, I think, first and foremost, BP has to pay for every dime of this cleanup.
That's right.
And when we go through the hearing today, I think it's very important to find out, what happened. Did they take shortcuts when they were out there on this rig? And looking at and hearing that testimony is going to be very, very important, because I think, that's what we have to do today to find out where we formulate where we're going to go into the future.
Do you really, not to sound cynical, but I guess I am, do you really expect to find out anything here? Isn't this really just an opportunity to express indignant outrage?
Well, I think that the committee's already sent a 13-page letter to BP, outlining a lot of questions they want to have answered and technical information to find out on the sequence of events what exactly occurred out there, and again, if shortcuts were made, because we're talking about loss of life. We're looking at the environmental impact this is going to have on the Gulf and across that whole region of the United States, and the impact on jobs and not only there, but also on oil production and gas production in the United States.
I agree. We found out a lot already in our hearings, but this really was a man-made perfect storm. Every step of the way, BP's inspection and their installation failed. One of the issues I'm really interested in is how on earth they failed to do any of the cement bond testing that would have made the cement strong. All of the fail-safe mechanisms failed. People thought that this rig was too big to fail, but obviously it did. And obviously now it's the worst environmental disaster in our nation's history. So we need to, Bob's right, we need to find out what happened.
Isn't the Minerals Management Service a key piece of this puzzle? I haven't heard anybody talking about that lately, and I realize it's in the executive branch. It's run by people the president appoints. Nonetheless, Congress has an oversight here.
Absolutely. I also serve on the Natural Resources Committee, and that's the committee with jurisdiction over the MMS. But we need to thoroughly look at the lax oversight for a number of years in the MMS and how that agency can be reorganized so that they're overseeing the installation of these wells in the future so that this doesn't happen again.
Well,
Lott, are we sure that, when you look at this rig, about 8 of the employees on the rig out of more than 100 were BP employees. The rest were from other companies. Is this really just about BP, or are you going to next have Halliburton, Transocean, Cameron International, all of them come and answer these questions?
Well, first and foremost, we have to talk to BP, because, when you look at the sequence of events and who was making the decisions out there, I think BP's number one, and that's who we have to hear from.
That's right.
And on the other side, just real briefly, I think that we have to have some folks coming in, of course, from MMS, and we've got to have the folks in from Interior to find out what was going on with them during this whole sequence out there.
Yeah. We've already had the subcontractors in Halliburton, Schlumberger, and others. But Representative Latta's right. The buck stops with BP. It was BP's site. BP had the oversight of all the subcontractors, and they were the ones there supposedly making sure that this well was installed correctly.
All right, well, Representatives DeGette and Latta, thank you very much, and
thanks
we'll look
very
forward
much
to hearing your questions to Mr. Hayward today.
All right.